special day indeed, Foundation Day. And at this stage, I would like to continue to share my slide series with you, which I have prepared. And I also know that after this meeting, there will be another meeting. It will be sent through Zoom from Adyar, also on the occasion of Foundation Day. So I try to be as brief as possible. I will probably give you a kind of a power pill of brotherhood. That's a bit my plan. So I will start sharing the screen now, and I hope it will work out. And I hope you all see this, which is the title slide of today. And of course, we know these two fine people, even if, well, many of you will have read at least one time a history on the life of Helena Blavatsky. And we also know that she was quite the character. She had a very forceful character. But anyway, without these two people and without our inner founders, there would probably have not been a Theosophical society. So this is actually what we are commemorating today, that we were founded as an organization. And if that is the case, which it is, we know 1875 New York, then it is also a good moment to try to recall ourselves why we were actually founded. Specifically, so many years, more than a century afterwards, it is a good thing to ask ourselves, and it's even a good thing to ask yourself every year, every Foundation Day. And now, because of this questioning on the reason why we exist, I thought, well, I should give this talk, this title, The Law of Universal Brotherhood, because Universal Brotherhood was, from the very beginning, the principal idea. And we will see later on, because I cannot do anything else but quote our inner founders themselves. But Universal Brotherhood was the primordial idea behind the founding of our Theosophical Society. And so we need to grasp that basic element as good and as thoroughly that we can. And we all know this. We started our existence as an organization with 3 objectives. And the very first one dealt exactly with universal brotherhood. The other 2, the comparative study and the power slated in man, of course, they are there as well, but it has always been underpinned that the forming of a nucleus of universal brotherhood is actually the most important of the 3 objectives of the Theosophical Society. And in this brief lecture, I will try to demonstrate that on basis of a number of short texts. Like I said, the inner founders, the masters of the wisdom, who were in close contact with Helena Blavatsky, with Henry Steele Olcott, with William Quan Judge as well, and with many others of the Theosophists of the first hour, we are extremely grateful to them to have written so many letters, particularly to A.P. Sinnett, because they form a very good source of a number of big ideas of our theosophical learnings, teachings, and some of them actually directly deal with universal brotherhood and the reason why we were founded, and also particularly the type of energy which was behind this foundation. And we start with Mahatma letter 5, and you can read this on page 20 of the English version of the Mahatma letters, and I will read with you this very important piece of this letter. It is Master K.H. who is writing, saying, strong will creates, and sympathy attracts even adepts whose laws are antagonistic to their mixing with the uninitiated. If you are willing, I will send you an essay showing why in Europe, more than anywhere else, a universal brotherhood, meaning an association of affinities, of strong magnetic yet dissimilar forces and polarities, centered around one dominant idea, is necessary for successful achievements in occult sciences. What one will fail to do, the combined many will achieve. For our topic of today, this is probably one of the most important pieces that one can quote on universal brotherhood, because it actually contains a definition, and a very clear and precise definition, on how the masters understood universal brotherhood. First of all, it is defined like an association of affinities. I have been fortunate to be comparing also the translated versions in French and in Dutch. They do different things with this word affinities, but it is clear that the affinities, they go even beyond the human form of existence. It tries to be as broad as possible. So this association, we are invited to represent it for ourselves in a sense as broad as we are possibly capable to imagine ourselves. And those affinities, they are related to strong magnetic, and then even more important, strong magnetic yet dissimilar forces and polarities. This is very interesting. This word dissimilar, I mean, because what does it indicate? It indicates that within this association, you can have a lot of dissimilar elements, energies, call it what you want, but yet they are associated. Even if they're different, they can be together, and they can be, as the definition goes on, they can be centered around. So regardless of the differences, that one dominant idea should have the power to go beyond all the differences and put all the different elements together in an association. It is in total, this definition is actually a very important one, and it merits to be in the center of our daily meditations, because it is actually a very profound thing which is explained here. And then, of course, KH goes on saying that this type of association of dissimilar elements is necessary for successful achievement in occult sciences. We should not be confused or anything. It is quite clear. In what type of condition do you get that far? To go beyond the differences, to go beyond what I would call outward natural dispositions or qualities. There's only one way you can go, and that is the way inside. Because we know that inside, within our very core, we human beings are all developed, we are all formed along the same basis. We are all based upon the same blueprint. And actually we could say, if we want to reconnect with this definition, we are all based upon that one dominant idea. In another letter, because I want to continue to develop the one dominant idea, and to start with, we need to get also a clear idea on what that is and what it is not. We recall from the beginnings of the Theosophical Society, of course, there was quite a lot of media attention at the time. There were a lot of, really an awful lot of newspaper coverage, because of course it was a new thing, and we attracted quite some attention. Unfortunately, also some negative attention, but well, some say there never exists any bad publicity as long as you catch the eye of the masses. But there was also an aspect to those beginnings, namely the sensualist attention. People wanted to see the miracles, the wonders. They wanted to see teacups, letters coming down from the ceiling, all kind of stuff appearing out of nowhere, apparently. It was like a kind of theater show, and at some point in time, the inner founders had to redirect that attention and had to say, hello guys, this is not the way to go about it. This is not what the Theosophical is about or should be about. And we have in Mahatma letter 38, which is a letter being written by Master M, we have such a corrective paragraph, and also this one I would like to read with you. So it's Master M saying, how many times had we to repeat that he who joins the society with the sole object of coming in contact with us, and if not, of acquiring at least, of assuring himself of the reality of such powers and of our objective existence, was pursuing a mirage. I say again then, it is he alone who has the love of humanity at heart, who is capable of grasping thoroughly the idea of a regenerating practical brotherhood, who is entitled to the possession of our secrets. A man who places not the good of mankind above his own good is not worthy of becoming our chela. He is not worthy of becoming higher in knowledge than his neighbor. If he craves for phenomena, let him be satisfied with the pranks of spiritualism. Such is the real state of things. And up till here, the quote by Master M, and of course we know him to be of a different energy than Master KH. And we can feel this very clearly in this very decisive and very clear quote, the love of humanity. That's the first thing you need to have as a personal objective if you want to catch the eye of the Master and nothing else. And we recall our previous quote where it was said, strong will and sympathy. That is what attracts the Master's attention. And what kind of sympathy? Well, from the moment that you are actually living out of love for humanity, regardless of what happens, it's the love that counts. From that moment, an individual necessarily catches the attention of masters. It cannot be any other way because that is the law of sympathy. And so at the center of our attention should not be our contact with us, but the love of humanity. And with that, we come into the theme, the connection, if you want, between brotherhood and love. And of course, they are very closely related to one another. They are not perhaps exactly the same, because the one is part of the other. The love is definitely part of the brotherhood, and the brotherhood is based upon love. When it comes to love, we of course have some very, very fine sources of literature, ethical literature, and one of such sources is At the Feet of the Master. We all know who wrote that, of course, even if at some point in time there were people who thought it necessary to discuss that and to maybe have question marks, but this small gem of theosophical ethical literature contains actually also some very useful hints as to the quality of love. And it is again KH who instructed our young Yiddu Krishnamurti, saying, of all the qualifications, love is the most important. For if it is strong enough in a man, it forces him to acquire all the rest. And all the rest, without it, would never be sufficient. Often it is translated as an intense desire for liberation from the round of births and deaths, and for you in that way sounds selfish and gives only part of the meaning. It is not so much desire as will, resolve, determination to produce its results. This resolve must fill your whole nature so as to leave no room for any other feeling. It is indeed the will to be one with God, not in order that you may escape from weariness and suffering, but in order that because of your deep love for him, you may act with him and as he does, because he is love. You, if you would become one with him, must be filled with perfect unselfishness and love also. This extremely beautiful and accurate quote says it all. It is a resolve, it is a decision, it is an act of our will, namely the decision from this moment on, you want to be of service to God. If you don't like the word God, then you just say, I want to be of service to humanity. And then at that decision, it is not necessarily humanity as an abstract idea, but those members of humanity which life has placed the closest within your current life. That is actually your first field of action to form the nucleus of universal brotherhood. We do not need big theories. We don't need to travel far away and long. The opportunities to be of service are very close. They can be within 1 meter distance of us. And the best part of the exercise is when things are tough, because those opportunities very often, they don't come on a silver platter. It's when you actually have to start developing, cultivating virtues like friendliness, like patience, like helping others even if it is difficult for you to do so. Those are the actual conditions where you can prove that you are serious with this, that you are serious with brotherhood, that you are serious with the love for humanity. So it's actually in a very concrete way, it is something that we can do here and now, wherever we are. Of course, on the topic of brotherhood and of love, there is another very fine gem of theosophical literature, namely the small booklet by our former international president, Annie Besant, which is called The Doctrine of the Heart. And also here we find a very good idea for an explanation or an illustration of universal brotherhood. We just have talked about love, but also the word service has been mentioned now a few times. And I found actually a very good illustration or definition of service in the way Annie Besant has described it. And I hope you all still can hear me clearly.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank you. So we continue with a very fine definition by Annie Besant on service. And I just mentioned that the real exercise is starting when things are tough for us and when it is not evident at all that we be of service, because maybe we might be in a kind of trouble ourselves, but yet we need to clearly grasp the attitude, the energy of true brotherly service, and there we have it, to serve for the sake of service, and even not for the pleasure we take in serving, is to make a distinct step forward, for that we then begin to gain that balance, that equilibrium, which enables us to serve as contentedly in failure as in success, in inner darkness as in inner light. And so with this definition, we receive yet another aspect of the diamond, so you wish, of universal brotherhood. It adds another color, another shade of color to all the other things that we have said so far. It is not even the fact that we should feel content with ourselves for having done this or that. No, no, no. It's just being of service for the sake of serving. Just because out of your heart, you know it is good to do, full stop, and no further consideration whatsoever. And only with this set in mind, you can go on serving, whether there's failure, whether there is success. It does not need our attention, actually, just that we recognize what it is that needs to be done, do it to the best of our ability, and in a certain way offer it, lay it at the feet, and then you can say whose feet, whoever's feet it may be God, it may be the Master, Ishvar, just like that. In inner darkness as in inner light. Of course, when we are in inner darkness, we will need confidence. We will need a profound confidence. For instance, we need confidence in the law of karma, in the good law, as Annie Besant has called it. So it is actually being of service is quite an exercise of universal brotherhood. Now, we all know, of course, the three objectives of the Theosophical Society, but only recently the General Council has formulated a mission statement which was intended, if you like a kind of renewed formulation of the objectives of the society, a sort of complement to the objectives, the one not really replacing the other, of course not, because the three objectives are the three objects. They remain the three objects and they remain the core, but we undertook as a council to again reformulate this mission. And maybe some of you know it by heart by now. I unfortunately don't, but I have it here for you. And it really feels like it was, well, I happened to be there at the moment that it was formulated. And even now, a few years afterwards, it really was a very special moment then, even if we were not at that point aware of that. But to see now how closely that we remained to the basic idea of our inner founders, also in formulating this mission statement to serve humanity by cultivating an ever deepening understanding and realization of the ageless wisdom, spiritual self-transformation, and the unity of all life. This mission is a whole program for the centuries to come. And the first two words, they are exactly about service. The first three words are exactly about humanity. There is no way you can put this mission into practice except when you are inwardly, very deeply moved by love for humanity, love for mankind. That's the only condition where you can actually put this into practice every day of your life. And it is an exercise that never ends. It is, as the mission statement says, ever deepening. And then, of course, the three elements, the ageless wisdom, the spiritual self-transformation, and the unity of all life. And these three are also very closely interrelated to one another. So maybe at some point of your life, you're more busy with the one than with the other. It doesn't matter. As long as you are busy with them, one way or another, you are serving humanity. If you are really impregnated by this idea, you will start to radiate anyway without your doing something extra to radiate. That's the whole point. And so, whenever you are so deeply connected with the idea of universal brotherhood, you are very profoundly connected with the idea and with the being of love, and then you get up to a point, like Annie Besant said, that you will be capable of continuing with the service anyway, regardless of the circumstances. But you will see, you will also always get the strength to go on and to continue to serve. And that is what I call the love principle. Again, from the doctrine of the heart, spiritual life and love are not exhausted by being spent. That's a very important thing to be open to. Maybe you say, well, I don't know, when I have been quite of service, sometimes I feel a little tired. Well, that's not entirely the idea that is, of course, expressed here. It just means that from your being, you will always find the energy, the inspiration, the motivation to go on, to look around you, to see what is needed, and to be able to do exactly what is needed to be of help to others so that they may feel helped, understood, consoled, whatever it is needed that you do at that particular moment. And so, in order to not take too much time of the coming Foundation Day Zoom of Adyar, I would just like to conclude with this very fine quote of one of the finest Indian mystics and poets, Rabindranath Tagore. And well, this will conclude, of course, because that's what the quote is about, isn't it? Let this be my last word, that I trust in thy love. And with this, dear friends, I would like to conclude, and I will also stop the sharing of the presentation. Thank you.